Hi, it's Bruce Hayworth here from 1969 Mustang Racing. Today we're looking at the fuel tank, which I'm going to be removing and replacing with a fuel cell. Now with this fuel tank, I've actually placed a steel plate over the top previously. There was an issue with the Mustangs where, because the fuel tank was part of the boot of the car, in an accident the fuel tank would rupture and fuel would spray up into the interior. You also put a plate across the back of the car where I'm pointing with the finger, but the steel plate as well as the bracket here also provides a bit of additional rigidity as well as a bit of extra protection if there's rear end impact. This steel plate is fairly thick, so if I pull these bolts out here, you'll see that we actually have a fairly heavy steel plate, and underneath that's the actual fuel tank. So I'll just remove this plate. So as you can see here, I've removed the plate from the top of the fuel tank. It is 3mm thick steel plate. If you look in the fuel tank here, you'll actually see there's a rectangular hollow box section that sits on top of the tank and straddles the flange of the tank, and that's what the mounting flange bolts to. So both of these, it's a 22-gallon tank. It's only about 3 years old. I'll be removing those and selling them, building up and fabricating a box and a bracket to put the fuel cell in. So next step is to remove the tank. Alright, so we've removed the tank. As you can see, it actually fills in the floor of the car. So over here we have the plate and the steel box section, and over the other side here we have the tank sitting in a foam cradle. What we're going to do is we're going to fit the fuel cell in this section. We're going to give it approximately the same clearance, see how it fits, then fab up a box to fit it, and then actually modify the factory filler so we can come and fill through here and straight into the tank. So as you can see, we've got the tank test fitted. There's a little bit of a gap still between the actual edge of the tank and the Mustang frame. This tank is a 16-gallon tank. The tank we pulled out was a 22-gallon tank. So the work to be done, obviously, pull the tank apart, rotate the filler. I'm also going to be putting in a Holley hydromat, so that'll sit underneath the foam. So we have the foam for anti-slosh as well as the hydromat to make sure that we pick up all the fuel possible. We're also going to try and hook it up to the factory filler location. So the filler will come through, the filler neck there will be rotated to the rear, we'll have a pipe connecting the two, and we'll make up a steel hanger to go around the outside of the frame. As well as we're going to be fitting this tank with a forward fuel sender, so we'll just fit it to the tank, drill a hole through the steel case and hook it up single wire, so that way the fuel gauge will work as well. So we're going from 22 to 16 gallons, not a huge loss there. Usually for the range the car does, that won't be an issue, and for racing especially not. In regards to profile, so at the moment it's on a jack stand, as you can see. It actually doesn't sit too low there, we've got a fair bit of clearance. And once we get a few more brackets, we'll get it sorted. Fast forward and the fuel cell is in. So we have a 3mm steel plate that adapts between the factory tank location and the aftermarket fuel cell. It's been laser cut for all the bolt holes and the flanging, so it fits perfectly. The fuel cell's been pulled apart, cleaned, had a Holley hydromat cell installed that has a 1/2 inch pickup on it. That then runs up through here, through this bulkhead to a -8 A1/2 inch. That then runs back under the car. We've replaced the Edelbrock pump with a higher flow pump, as well as installing a billet filter. From the billet filter, it then runs -8 AN, which is 1/2 inch hose, all the way up to the engine bay bulkhead. From then, we have the hose into the carburetor standard. We also have the vent hose here, so this comes up. We have our filler tube hose here. Clamps aren't on yet. That's not a problem because we're not actually using it yet. We have also cut and modified the filler here, so we've changed the angle of the filler neck. We've also put a bung in to bring this vent hose up to. And we've also modified the cap, so the cap now vents to air. Not an issue here because we actually have a flap in the top of the tank here, and that flap actually seals. So when the fuel comes down, the weight of the fuel pushes the flap down. Once the fuel's in the tank, the flap comes back up, it's spring loaded, and fuel can't come back out. We also have a aftermarket fuel gauge, so this suits Ford early model fuel senders. We have earth wire, so we don't have a fire hazard. It's quite clear when you install this, the card comes and says must be earthed. Earth wire runs up, provides earth to the gauge, and also runs up and mounts to a dual earth over there. And we have our sender wire for the fuel gauge here, and this is obviously sealed to the hack and sealed to the fuel cell. So provide a leak-free solution. We have our dash 8 as described before, and back here as well we have the earth, plus also the power and a quick connector for the fuel pump. Any issues with the fuel pump, be able to pull it out. So there you have it, fuel cell on an early model Mustang for a factory fit. I'll post some more pics at a later date and time. Enjoy.